Hi, this is Jodi Smith. I'm the president of board of directors for GRAR, and with me is
I'm Ed Hansen. I'll be your president next year.
Ed. I appreciate you joining me. This is the November Jodi's Toolbox, and I'm trying to have every board of director. You're the last board of director that we have to share this on Jodi's Toolbox, but you're definitely very important because you're going into 2022 here. You're the next one to lead us into 2022.
Yep, I look forward to having these little sessions with you, Jodi.
So I thought that today's toolbox would be great to talk about communication styles, communication tips. And I know this could be a very long conversation, but what Ed and I have just kind of decided is to just share a couple of points that we both have learned in our years of doing this business. Because you know what, communication is not an option, and communication is so important to helping our clients and helping with other realtors and how we do it. Not just that we have to do it, but how we do it. So Ed, I'm going to let you get started with what some of your ideas are.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I got a few comments. The one tip I would like to put out is when you have clients that are a couple, two people, you need to make sure that you're engaging in both. You know, it seems everything I talk about from a result of doing the wrong thing at one time and making these mistakes, but you got to make sure you engage them both. And then the next most important thing is you need to ask the question and be clear, what type of communication do they prefer? Do they like a phone call? Do they like a text? Do they like email? You need to make it clear, number one, which way they prefer. Number two, if it's email, for example, do they both want to be included in on all the messages back and forth, or just one? And then, you know, it's simply a matter of trying to remember to pick up the phone, because the text and the emails certainly don't show any emotion or the tone of it. You just don't know. And I guess really the last thing I wanted to say, and that has to do with all things, and in my office, they're tired of me saying this, but everything that you hear about with communication and relationships is that you need to speak clear. And I'm not talking about the clarity of your voice. I'm talking about the message. You need to be so perfectly clear that it's virtually impossible to be misunderstood. And try to remember that, especially when you're going over your contracts, because you and I, we know those contracts. Our clients don't. So go overboard to make it virtually impossible to be misunderstood. That will help you. So good luck.
Yes. And you know what, I want to share, I love that. One of the things I do want to share too is I just shared this with a lender the other day. When it's a past client, somebody that you just sold a home to 3 years ago or 8 years ago, please know you have to talk with them just as if they'd never bought or sold a home before. They do not retain what an EMD is. They don't retain when that was supposed to be paid. They might remember something. Hey, Jodi, don't I owe you a check or something? But you have to just go back to remembering that you have to go back to the basics and say, hey, you have a 5-day inspection contingency or a 10-day inspection contingency. Oh, we need to order the well and septic. Like, you got to remember them, even though they've been through the process. You have to remember that you have to start all over, because we don't retain that information. We just don't. Yeah. And I love to, you talked about clients, and I think this is the communications style has to be very understood with your fellow realtor. When you're trying to, you're trying to put a sale together or keep an offer, a sale together, the communications style with a fellow agent. One of the complaints I often hear, and we see it even on our Facebook, is how agents kind of like ghost each other. It's like, I'm just not going to communicate to you at all. I'm not going to answer any of your questions. I'm not going to tell you where we are with the well and septic inspection. Like, that's just not fair. It's just not fair. It's like, it makes us all look bad. If I can't communicate to my buyer that I can't reach the other agent, that reflects poorly on the seller, that reflects poorly on the agent, it reflects poorly on our industry. So Even if you don't have an answer, Ed, if I don't have an answer for you yet, at least I will acknowledge that, hey, Ed, I got your message. I'm working on it. I'll get back to you tomorrow. Or I'm waiting to get back to the seller.
Yeah.
Or hearing
That's-
back from the seller. Mhm.
That's so important to do to your clients too.
Mhm.
I haven't heard back yet, but I'm on it. I'll get back to you. Yeah,
Exactly.
good advice.
Yep. The other thing is I'm just going to share a couple of things that I learned right in the beginning of my career, and I still use it. And that is, when you're talking to a buyer, talk about it as a home. And then when you're talking to your seller, don't say home, say house or property.
Yeah.
Kind of you start taking the home away from that word from your seller, because a lot of sellers are still having a hard time that they're letting go of their home. So call it a house or property. And I know this is a kind of a typical one, but I think I never call it a contract. I never call it a buyer agency contract. I never call it a listing contract, call it an agreement. Hey, we have an agreement, because you want that agreement. You want that as a team. We're a team. You know, Ed, I'm going to list your home. Oh, no, I'm going to list your house.
That's right.
And we're a team. So we're going to just have an agreement here. So there's no misunderstandings, right? It's kind of like it's an agreement.
Yeah. Those great tips. And those are things that we tend to take for granted, but good to remember and good points again. So thanks, Jodi.
Well, I just think that we just got to keep working on our communication. I think it's just something that's so important. And we have to do that with our families and our friends. And we certainly need to just keep learning no matter how long you've been doing this. And we have new problems. I have a new problem on a deal right now, and I'm going, how am I going to word this before I call my seller to tell her what the problem is? You know, make sure that I don't have emotion, make sure I don't show my frustration, and provide, this is the other thing, is provide solutions. If you're going to give a client a problem, provide one or two options that they have. So,
Perfect.
well, you know, you and I could talk all day about this. You know, I'm really good at that.
And so am I. So no, it was good. Good advice.
Well, thank you, Ed. Thanks so much for being part of Jodi's November Toolbox, and hope somebody is getting some good information from this.
See y'all.
Yep. Bye-bye.